What's up, party people? Welcome to another episode of Where Does Food, the food history podcast, where the hot takes are not about the food. I'm your host, Elle, and with me is our other host,
Tim. That's me. I was trying to think of a name, but I'm not feeling creative. So it's just Tim today. It's Tim today.
It's just Tim tonight. Hey, that's all we need. Tim tonight. Yeah.
Thanks. That feels good to hear.
Yeah.
You know how much I don't hear that, Elle.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, you should hear that more often.
You know how many people never say like, all we need is you, man.
Yeah, no, that's all we need.
Yeah, that's all we need. You don't need to be a character. You don't have to do voices. We like you when you do your normal voice. That's what I want to. Actually, Tim, you're kind of insufferable when you keep making stupid jokes all the time. No. So if you could stop, that'd be great.
No, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it feels good to be here.
Good.
Welcome.
Good to be here. Yeah, welcome.
I like being in my closet. It's a little warm, but I like being in my closet.
It's a little warm. I mean, it's been too hot. I know it's summer, but I mean, come on. Dehydration stations over here. Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah.
Tim, based on the method of production, what food can be made extra soft, firm, or extra firm?
Me on a Saturday night.
I'm not talking about a Brazilian butt lift over here.
Yeah. Listen, it's tofu.
Boom, 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 boom.
It's tofu. We're talking about tofu tonight.
That was a heck of a guess. How do you feel about tofu, Tim?
I love it, man. How do you feel about it?
I've learned to like it. I'm not gonna say I love it, but I've learned to like it.
You don't have to like it. It's fine.
But
you can dislike it. I like tofu in the very American way to like tofu.
Yes.
I like the extra firm, and I like it when it's nice and fried and in my Asian dishes. Yes. I think I've said on the podcast before that when I eat out at like either Thai places or like Chinese places, anything like that, I actually do tend to lean towards getting tofu dishes. I actually don't go for like chicken, beef, or anything like that. For the most part, every once in a while I dabble, but like they just do tofu really well in the sense of like the fried kind of like this is a meat replacement product. But I do know that tofu is super, super versatile.
Very, yes.
And I don't use it for any of that versatility at all. I pretty much have only ever had the extra firm, and even at my house, even when I've cooked it, it's always been the extra firm, like pan fried properly, with the cornstarch so it can get crispy, things like that. Like that's usually how I
like you can throw it in the air fryer.
Consume it.
No, I agree with you. That kind of to my point of learning to like it. Initially, I was like tofu, not a fan. But once I learned that it doesn't really have a taste in and of itself. Obviously, more Asian cultures are gonna have more of like that bean flavor come out of it, but for our Americanized version, there's really not a flavor to it. So just it usually soaks up whatever you cook it in, and it's usually delicious.
Yeah, it is a little vegetal. I never like telling people it doesn't taste like anything because I'm always like, all right, listen, it's not going to be like drinking water. Okay. Let me just it is a fucking bean and it's a little vegetal. Okay. Like it's got a little, it's a little vegetal, but that's a good thing. Like I like that. I like the little kind of veggie taste, that's what I'm looking for when I'm eating.
Tails.
Like VeggieTales. I'm Bob the Tomato, like VeggieTales. I don't know Larry's voice, but it's Larry the Cucumber. But I know every fucking episode of
VeggieTales.
VeggieTales. It's fucking I'm Bob the Tomato every time.
That'll be our next guest, Bob, and maybe Larry.
Yeah, Bob the Tomato.
Yeah, maybe Larry.
I
but
can't.
Bob for sure.
I don't listen. I don't want to do that because that's a Christian program, and I'm not a Christian boy, so I don't want to ruin Bob the Tomato. I don't want that on my my legacy.
He's already been ruined. That's to be fair. So we're keeping it simple. Keeping it simple today, Tim. We're going 0 to 100 real quick. 0 to 100. How do you feel about tofu? What are you thinking? I didn't feel like doing too much math earlier, so 0 to 100.
I'm gonna go 75. I'm gonna go 75.
That's pretty solid, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I do like it. I don't really buy it for the house that much anymore because I just am not a practitioner of the Asian cuisine in my kitchen, really. So I had a stint where I was trying to get better at it, and I just kind of gave up. And so I just don't buy it often for the house. I've reverted back to my Italian my Italian food and my American food. So
pretty solid choices, though, I gotta say. Plus, I feel like, I don't know, tofu you have to really be in the mood for, and there's a lot of tofu, so it's kind of hard to just tofu. It's kind of hard to just like, I'm gonna get a bag of tofu.
And I think it says more to just like Asian cuisine is just like it really is a hard cuisine to like do well.
Yes,
and there's a lot that goes into it, and like it's just a lot, and I might pick it back up soon. I've made some good dishes. It's just that like there is such a barrier to it, and when I'm such a fucking like weirdo about that type of stuff. I want to try and do it as authentically as I can when I make dishes that are like international based. So when I make like Mexican food, I try really hard to like use peppers and seasonings and spices and the herbs that would be more traditional.
Sure.
And the cooking methods that can be a little more traditional if I can. Obviously, I just live in an apartment, so it's like I have a good amount of kitchen gear though, so I can accomplish some shit. But like I don't have a blue steel wok. Like I don't have some of the more common kind of Asian food cookware.
Yeah.
And listen, that shit's needed.
It is. It makes a difference. Right. There's a reason why those things are prepped that way.
Yeah. So I hope, I'll try and get back into it. But a 75, since I currently do not buy it for the house. If I bought it for the house, it'd be a little bit higher because there was a point where I was eating the fuck out of some tofu.
Oh, really? Okay.
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's tofu's great. There's a good reason to it. I mean, they got, it's high in protein. It's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, it is.
So, there's a reason why people use it as a supplement to any type of meat that you would perhaps have.
Yeah.
But, I guess kind of we're getting into it. Like, what is tofu? It's a good question. What is it?
What is tofu?
What is it?
If we give an answer, can we do it after a short break?
I think we should.
I'm just like really thirsty. I just need to like drink some tofu. Let's take a break.
You're not doing tofu dinner theater for these motherfuckers. Let's roll.
Tim, how was that tofu water?
It was really good. It cost me $37 at Whole Foods. So
no.
It's really
just a stray shot that Whole Foods just got. That was good. Tofu, aka bean curd. It's a soft, relatively flavorless, said relatively, food product made of soybeans. It originates from China and it's influenced other Asian countries like Japan, Korea, and honestly the rest of Southeast Asia. And it's made its way over to the Western world. So tofu, like I said, made from that dried soybean. They're soaked in water, crushed, and then boiled. That mixture, it's separated into a solid pulp, okora, and soy, quote-unquote, milk. It's high in protein, iron, and has high calcium or magnesium. So, again, not only mentioning that high protein content, but it's also just getting other things that your body needs to survive as well. So...
Yeah. Wait, you're telling me it has iron and magnesium?
What?
Carnivore diet people told me I can't get that out of veggies. So, what the hell?
What is that?
I've been eating nothing but sirloin straight for 47 days, and you're telling me I could have had tofu got my magnesium in and my iron in?
Mm-hmm.
I literally haven't touched a vegetable in 365 days, and I could have had tofu?
Yes, the gains could have came from the tofu.
Wow. You know what? I'm writing Joe Rogan about this. I'm done. I'm done.
The buzzword, I'm about to talk about whey, which is what separates, which separates the curds from the whey, and they add soy milk to the mix. And then that soy milk is poured into molds, which allows the carbohydrate-laden whey to drain off. And then result is those nice soft cakes that are then cut into squares and then stored underwater until they're sold. Usually in bulk, but sometimes they're also packed individually. You've probably seen them individually in the grocery. I almost at the gas station. Please don't eat tofu gas from the gas station. I don't trust that. I can't give my seal approval for that one. But as mentioned earlier, to Tim's point. They can be made extra soft, firm, or extra firm, and there's other ways of making tofu or other types of tofu, but we'll get into that later. But those are kind of the main tofu categories that you can.
When you're in the tofu section of your local grocer, that's probably the things that are going to be there.
Yes.
And honestly, they might not even have all four. They might
probably
just have
not.
like the firm and extra firm.
Yes. More than likely. And then also, I didn't realize, but you can also get dry tofu, which does not require refrigeration, which I thought was nifty.
No. Yes. Yeah, I've had that before.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I like the texture. I like the texture a lot. It's nice because you just like kind of reconstitute it, So it's got like that. It's got a little. I think it has more of a meatier texture than like traditional extra firm tofu. So it's good.
Interesting.
Like
Okay.
Yeah, it's also like they also will like fucking flavor it sometimes, like when they dehydrate it. So it's almost like
a jerky
almost
situation.
a jerky treatment, right? But you don't eat it like dry. You just you just cut it up and like reconstitute it in like some stir fry or something like that. Like it's so good.
Interesting.
It's like I had one that was just like fucking MSG and fucking.
Oh,
just
I bet that was really good.
You know what I mean? It was just like all the classic like fucking savory, salty kind of like soy flavorings that come on traditional Asian foods, and it was just oh my god, yeah,
I bet
it was
good.
I really liked it. Very hard to find, and I wish I could find it more because that's a product of tofu that I really really enjoy.
If you find it, let me know. I'd definitely be interested in trying that because that sounds.
You don't have to press the water out.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Like when you are like traditionally like when you
gotta drain it.
Prep tofu for certain projects, you have to like kind of not only drain it, but you have to kind of like press it and let it like
paper towel.
The one thing I always saw, and I could be wrong on how they actually do this, but the thing that I saw was just like, you put like a paper towel over it, and then you actually put like a little small weight, and you press it, and you just want it to be on like a surface that allows it to like drain off.
Drain out, yep.
So you can get the drier texture, so it can cook a little bit better for you. It just takes a little bit of time.
I'm intrigued about this dry tofu then. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna find it. We'll report back to you guys. Which, speaking of reporting, this takes us to science time. Boom, boom, boom.
Whoa.
Boom.
Pretty sure this is like the first science time we've had this season.
I know. Wait a second. I wanted to talk
That's
about.
crazy.
I did want to talk about like the process of tofu. Just quickly,
and listen, for this science time, since it's the first one in season 5, we have our special guest.
Yeah.
Bill fucking Nye, the science guy. Bill, go ahead. Take it over, Bill Nye, the science guy.
Bill Nye, the science guy. Bill.
Bill singing his own theme song. What a crazy guy. Bill Nye, welcome to Where Does Food? I'm so happy that you're here.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, big fan. Have been a big fan since I was a little tot. And I'm just so excited for you to do I'm pretty sure it's the first science time of season 5, but this is a segment that we do where we give the science of how tofu functions and works. So, Bill, take it away.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. So, how does this process happen? Coagulation of the protein and oil emulsion suspended in boiled soy milk is the most important step of the production of tofu. Soybean proteins are mainly composed of 7S and 11S proteins. The negative surface charges on these globulins usually cause them to repel each other. Heating soy milk denatures the proteins and exposes hydrophobic groups normally oriented toward the inside of the globulin structure. Cations from the coagulants bind the negatively charged groups, and then as the net charges of the protein molecules are neutralized, attractive hydrophobic interactions dominate over repulsive electrostatic charges, and protein aggregates are formed. Thanks, Tim.
Wow, that was fantastic, Bill Nye, everyone. That's Bill Nye. Bill. Wow, I did not know that tofu was that involved. It was very fun to hear Bill Nye give me the explanation for the science behind tofu.
Cool. Yeah.
Also, that actually is kind of crazy. That's a lot of information. I didn't realize tofu was so.
No, I didn't realize it either.
But I guess that's kind of food in a nutshell, right? It's like there's a lot more science going into it than I think we give credit for.
Took the words out of my mouth. I think that is food in a nutshell because there's been so many times. I mean, talk about the Maillard reaction, the Maillard process, and it's like, oh, that's how we toast food. But it's like on face value, it's like, oh yeah, I'm toasting my bread because of heat.
Right.
But
like,
no,
you functionally just described like how coagulation works in terms of tofu, right? And it's like, but when you break it down to like what's actually happening to the proteins and like all the molecules, it's like, oh, this is how coagulation works. Like, I get it.
This is real science. Yeah.
These molecules push out the other ones and come together and they become a sticky little mass, and then you have this fucking brick that we just kind of munch on.
So you bring up a good point. I think if I had more food related science in my science classes in high school and college, I think it probably would have stuck a little bit more.
Oh, buddy, did you not watch Good Eats with Alton Brown?
Not in school, unfortunately. Good Eats was like
man.
show, though.
I will say there was not enough Good Eats in school. They really didn't play Good Eats in school, and that's a fucking shame because Alton Brown is the science food guy.
Yes.
He's the penultimate science food guy. So it's just like...
Yeah. There's so... I can't, like...
Alton Brown, super... I love that guy. Super inspirational.
Agreed.
Part of the reason why I wanted to do the show. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just like so good at sparsing out not only historical stuff on Good Eats, but also, also like scientific stuff and like why things are doing what they're doing. Dude's the best. Dude's great.
No,
put him in schools. He's great.
Yeah, you should. I feel like we should do that. I don't know, just in general, because like you said, it's like kids need to learn how to cook. You can always learn how to cook. It doesn't matter what age you are. Actually, you can always refine your cooking skills.
Yeah.
And science. I don't know. It was a fun way to learn science. And learn why your favorite foods are the way they are. Speaking of good things, let's talk about the origin story.
Yes.
Let's get into it.
I feel like we're getting into some history now.
We are.
You did the preamble with like, hey, what's tofu? This is what makes tofu work. Now let's fucking do what the show is based on, the premise of the show.
Where did it food at? How did it food?
Where does food happen?
Food. Do something. No, all right. So a form of tofu may have been discovered during the Han Dynasty. That's 202 BC to 220 AD or BCE to ACE.
Yeah.
But it did not become popular food in China until the Song Dynasty, which was about 1960 to 1279. Before refrigeration was available in China, tofu was often only sold during winter, since tofu did not spoil as easily in the cold months, which I feel like we've just, over the course of the show, we've pretty much gotten that down pat. Before refrigeration happened, there were so many foods that truly were seasonal foods.
Yeah.
There was no,
we've never had it so good.
We've never had it so good.
You have never had it so goddamn good.
Like, we went from
it's just a fact of life.
Refrigeration to, in theory, if you like it, you can get a fruit that's out of season because it's been modified that way. But anyways, that's besides the point. So we haven't had one of these in a while, but there's kind of some cloudiness on the origins of tofu in and of itself. Like, we all agree that it came from China, but there's kind of just some like, but who and how exactly? So I'm about to give you some
theories.
Some theories. See which one you feel
is it as many as who put the hole in the donut? Well, no, we know who put the hole in the donut, but like the theories on how he put the hole in the donut. Kind of. So many theories behind that. All right, so we got some theories about who made it.
We've got Lord Luan, a Han Dynasty prince. Apparently, he was the one that discovered it. And in 1960, there's a stone mural that was unearthed from an Eastern Han Dynasty tomb that provided support to this theory.
Don't care.
To your point, Tim, some scholars maintain that tofu during the Han Dynasty was rudimentary and actually lacked the firmness and taste to be considered a tofu, which, like, the disrespect. The disrespect. So,
well, you know how I feel about giving royalty credit.
I know.
For what most likely was either A, their cook, or B, someone else's bullshit that they enjoyed that they took credit for.
And they're like, I've created this.
Yeah, I ate it in one of the earliest versions of a restaurant, but I made this. It's like, fuck off.
No, you didn't. But yeah, to your point. So that's the first one, which again, in theory, has some factual historical support to back it up. But meh. Then we've got the production method for tofu was discovered accidentally when a slurry of boiled ground soybeans was mixed with impure sea salt. The sea salt probably would have, contained calcium and magnesium salts, which allowed the soy mixture to curdle and produce a tofu-like gel.
Oh, that's the answer.
He said, that's the one.
That's the one.
There's two more, but technically this one I feel like kind of goes into its own realm, but like that's fine. Okay. So the ancient Chinese learned the method for curdling soy milk by emulating the milk curdling techniques of the Mongolians and East Indians. Evidence for this theory is etymologically similar between the Chinese term of rofu, which again, apologies, I'm right, which means milk curdled, used during the Sui dynasty, 581 to 618, for dishes with a consistency like yogurt or soft cheese. That sounds familiar. Later,
that's an interesting theory. Not to keep cutting you off, sorry.
You're good. No, because it was influenced by Mongolian milk products and methods of production, and the term tofu, which means bean curdled or tofu.
So the third theory is that it wasn't necessarily an accident. It was just taking things that they had learned from a different region on like a different product and then just applying that same sort of technique. Even though they didn't know the science, they were like, oh, well, this works with this. Maybe we can do it with this or whatever.
You got it.
And then, so instead of it being an accident, it actually ends up being like a process. That sounds pretty solid to me as well.
And it kind of goes with the first or the theory before this one. It's not really like specific to anyone.
Where it's like maybe it is an accident, but also like you don't necessarily go from an accident to knowing exactly how it happened. So maybe they were like, oh, maybe this is similar to like what we do with milk products functionally. So that's interesting.
To that point, I think this last one kind of really might be more of a support for the second half of this theory. So tofu was actually invented when a cook decided to make flavored soybeans using a substance called nigari. However, the cook ended up with bean curd instead of the flavored soybeans. And then it was called tofu, which again, we've already kind of,
talked about.
Already talked about. So, which was similar to what the Mongolians called the curdled beans. So I'm like, I feel like I feel like that's probably more so it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was an accident per se. I think it was
that's a lot of that's good. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that the first one it seems like the first one is contested, even though there's like some actual like, proof that a sort of product existed that early on. But it's interesting that the contention isn't that it existed. It was like, is it tofu? Like, would that be considered tofu? So that's kind of tough. Even though, again, I know I was making the joke of like, nope, it can't be that because it's Prince. But like, I don't know. That's actually like a really good conversation. Those are some good theories. That's fun. Like that's got a shroud of mystery. That's nice.
Yes.
That's a good one where it's like, that straight up could be kind of any of them. Some of them almost support each other.
Exactly.
Like,
that's why.
Yeah, and then you have the first one, which is really just the question of like, do we consider that tofu? Can you consider that tofu?
The early iterations.
But we've had food in the past where we've, do you really? It's like, no, not necessarily, but should it be a part of tofu history? Yeah, probably. Same with burgers, like Hamburg steak from Germany. It's like, is that a fucking hamburger? No, it's not. But
it's under the umbrella.
It's part of hamburger history. It's part of hamburger history because it has a patty form, and we used that and threw it on some bread here in America and made our own thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like that. That was fun.
That was good. Okay, good.
Tofu, fun time, good time.
I'm going to say, it takes us to etymology time. Bum, bum, bum.
Hey!
I know, our favorite time. But we kind of already mentioned it.
Yeah, we did a little bit.
The Japanese tofu, in turn, is borrowing of Chinese and Mandarin tofu, the bean curd, bean ferment. The English word tofu comes from the Japanese word tofu. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's where we get our...
And then the Japanese tofu comes from tofu.
Yeah. Chinese and Mongolian. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah,
we say that tofu was introduced in Japan about from 710 in the Nara period. And it's because, of course, like most food back in the day, Zen Buddhist monks, they were traveling and they were like learning the ways of the Chinese, and these priests were like, hey, this is this tofu that we have. It's part of our vegetarian diet. And so these Shinto priests were like, oh, that's cool. And they took it back to Japan. And that's kind of how it started. Yeah. A Shinto priest. Yeah. And then, of course, it was mentioned in the book Tofu Haichun, which was published in 1782. And there's 100 recipes for cooking tofu in there.
God.
Banana Land. And then, we get over, during the 10th and 11th century, it's now made its way over to Vietnam and other parts of Southeast Asia as well. It's said that this kind of coincides with Buddhism, which I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then during the Ming Dynasty, there is a method of making tofu in the Compendium of Materia Medica. I thought that was fun. And there's a list of way to make tofu. So now we're going really westward. Like, we've kind of made our way westward from Japan, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But now we're really making our way over, because I was like, how is this possible? So apparently, a Spanish explorer, of course, Domenico Fernandez de Navarrete, personally saw how tofu was made and documented the process in a book called A Collection of Voyages and Travels. It was published in English in 1704. And then, of course, the popularity of tofu reached French shores and was first produced in France in about 1880.
Oh, okay.
So we're in France. And Tim, it wouldn't be obscure food history if we weren't going to have an appearance by you-know-who, Ben Franklin.
Goddamn, we haven't had a Benny Franklin in a minute.
It's
been a minute since Benny dropped on by the
I know.
By the podcast.
He loved everything.
Welcome special guest Benjamin Franklin.
Indubitably.
One of the guys who apparently brought a bunch of food over or whatever the fuck.
Allegedly.
Big French big
diplomat,
super cool guy, I guess, but I think he had syphilis.
Alexander Hamilton. That's all I think about of Benjamin Franklin. Yeah.
Had a kite or some shit. I don't know. I literally I am the worst at just common history. I'm just terrible at it. Doing this podcast has done exactly one thing, and it has pushed all of my other history out of my fucking head.
That's fair.
And now I only contextualize history around the food that we consume. How does that make you feel?
I think we should write a book now. I think that has put us in that zone where all other knowledge has left our brain. I agree with that. It's been a slow brain drain.
I seriously I don't. You know how people landmark this is World War II. I'm like, oh, you mean when Coca-Cola started to pop off in the States? It's Americano.
We started jamming things.
Just complete nonsense information. Who the fuck cares?
No, I will. It's such a fun party trick. You just got all this random knowledge in your brain, and then you have to refrain. Like you said, you're just in normal conversation, and you have to wait or refrain from saying things. It's I just met you. You don't need to know that I know this random mass fact about food. You will soon, but not right now.
Yeah, it's literally just like how my world is contextualized right now. It's the history points of food. But cool, Ben Franklin.
I love that.
We're in the 1800s now. We've hit France with tofu.
Tofu. So allegedly, Ben Franklin was the first American to mention tofu. He was writing a letter to John Bertram in 1770, and he apparently encountered it on a trip to London. London. He had a few soybeans, and he referred to them as cheese from China. It's Tuesday in it. And then he corresponded with James Flint on the subject of the Chinese converted soybeans into tofu. And then in Flint's writing, he wrote tofu, Towfu.
Oh, okay.
And apparently this is the first documented use of tofu in the English language. In these letters.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it's
wow,
because of Ben Franklin. Which I'm just going to... It's probably because of a chef. Because that's how mac and cheese happen. So I'm just going to... Yeah. I'm going to say this is actually because of London. They went to London town. But yeah, so this is where the American version of the story gets a little spicy. 15 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Tofu was introduced to Americans for the first time by Harada and Company, which then led to the first ever mass production of tofu by T.A. Van Gundy and his La Sierra Industries in California in 1929. But it is said that the first tofu company in the United States was established in 1878. And in 1908, Li Yuang, a Chinese anarchist and a vegetarian with a French degree in agriculture and biology, opened a soy factory, the Usine de la Casio Sohen. And this was the world's first soy dairy and first factory in France to manufacture and sell bean curd.
Wow.
Very, very interesting twist there. And then, not to be outshined, in the 1970s, Vietnam War protesters became interested in Vietnamese culture and a greater interest in Asian spirituality. A man named Bill Shirtleff, who discovered tofu while living with a Zen master, quote unquote, in a California monastery, wrote the Book of Tofu with his Japanese wife, Akiko Aogi, and it changed everything in American tofu world. Apparently released since 1976, the book shed light on the benefits of tofu and included instructions on how to make it. And then apparently they went on a nationwide book tour to spread the word about tofu, which is an incredible.
You
just
said
that
this
entire...
was in the 70s?
Yeah. I feel like that's the only time that would happen.
That's the most 70s fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
Absolutely.
That's the most 70s. You could have said like early 80s and I'd give it that too, but for sure 70s.
For sure.
That's the most 70s thing I've ever heard.
If I would have said that
life.
happened in the 90s, I'd be like, that's not true. I'd be like,
yeah.
No.
I'd be like, no way.
There's not. It doesn't happen.
We were talking about Pilates then. We don't care about we don't care about
Weight Watchers.
Tofu in the 90s.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. WW.
But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I do know that America is like we use soy in a ton of stuff. So we have tons of soy farms here.
Yeah, which I didn't realize that. Yeah, we have a bunch of soy.
Big agriculture here. Yeah, for sure.
I also want to mention some different types of tofu. So, not to be outdone, tofu can also be added in sweet dishes as well as savory dishes. Again, to Tim's point, that's a little bit earthy, a little bit beany, but it's gonna take on what you're cooking it in if you prepare it well. Like most things, right? Like most things, that's gonna happen. And then of course in modern Western cooking, we mentioned it's kind of become a substitute for meat, like any type of red meat or like chicken or fish.
Aren't the desserts typically, isn't it the soft stuff used for that? Because it's like
buttery almost.
Yeah, so it's like you're getting a different texture with that. You're not just like munching on firm tofu with like sugar on it. You're getting like some sort of like flan almost. You know what I mean? Yeah, flan fan.
Fan.
You getting some?
Absolutely not. So yeah, you've got pickled tofu, preserved or fermented tofu. Usually consists of cubes of dried tofu that have pretty much fermented with aerial bacterial. Yeah, which Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Then you have soft tofu that's been layered pretty much like a fish brine. It's like fermented in a fish brine. Yeah. 1,000-layer tofu. It means frozen tofu. The ice crystals that develop within it result in the formation of large cavities that appear to be layered.
Interesting.
You've got kori tofu, which is just essentially freeze-dried tofu. And then there's a special type of this. They got koya tofu in Japan, and that's freeze-dried tofu from Mount Koya, a center of Japanese Buddhism. So that's like elite tofu. And then
it's like high-end shit.
Yes. And then you've got koya tofu.
The leveled up tofu.
Part 2. So this one is like leaving tofu outdoors in the winter season, and then it's sold in freeze-dried blocks or cubes in Japanese market. And it's usually simmered in dashi, sake, or mirin and soy sauce.
Oh, okay.
That sounds pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, there's a bunch of ways that you can prepare and eat tofu. Obviously, just kind of depends on how you want to. But yeah, you've got like seasoned, smoked, tofu a la minute, pressed, fermented sticks, fried puffs. I mean,
I'm really stuck up on the fermented tofu. I'm just so curious about how that would taste. I actually I tend to like the taste of fermentation. We know this about me.
Yes.
But I'm just so intrigued by that. Like, my brain can't bring it together.
No, I can't. Yeah, I don't know if I would.
Like, it's in my mind, it seems like it's just kind of sour and weird, but I don't know.
The texture might stress me out. This might be too slimy, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. I would definitely try it though. Yeah.
Yeah, I would try it.
Yeah, but yeah,
I would try it.
That's tofu. I mean, you gave it a 75 before we started. You saying the same?
Listen,
you dropping? You going up? What are you thinking?
I think I'm gonna go up just because I had so much fun with the origin of it. Yeah. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. Like, Bill Nye was here. That's pulling,
cool, right?
That's pulling heavy.
Yeah,
that's pulling heavy. That Bill Nye made an appearance. Like. Pretty sick that you got him in on the podcast. Love it. Love you, Bill. He's been gone for an hour. But I'm gonna go up to an 85.
Yes, we'll take that. 85.
I think it's cool, man. I like it, and it's also it's got some fun. It's got some fun ambiguity, but it's cool, and I like that it's not super super complicated. It's kind of unassuming, actually.
It is, yes.
It's just kind of it's one of those things that I don't know. Maybe that's what our show needs more drama, but it's kind of got one of those things that doesn't have a ton of drama to it.
Pretty straightforward, yeah. I mean, besides the different kind of the theories of origin, but they all kind of also layered onto each other. So
yeah, it's almost not like an either or, but like a and also.
Yeah.
So that was that's fun.
Tofu.
85 for me. I'm gonna go by 10 on that one.
Heck yeah, we'll take that.
We do a thing at the end of the podcast for season 5 that started in episode 3. It's called Wreck My Beehole. Do you have a Wreck My Beehole locked and loaded, ready to go?
I do, for once, kind of. But it's nothing groundbreaking or anything.
That it doesn't have to be. It's just this is just meant for us to wreck someone's beehole.
Listen, it's actually pretty simple. My recommendation is to go watch a movie that you actually enjoy watching. When was the last time you went back and just watched an old movie that you grew up watching? Just to turn your brain off. Don't touch your phone. Just enjoy the nostalgia of it. If only an hour and a half of your time, man. That's 3 episodes of something.
That's a good wreck. My recommendation, so I got a vacation coming up, and we've talked about this vacation.
Pumped for you.
And I've really, my original plan was to go to the great American city, Chicago.
Woo! We love it. We love Chicago. We love you.
Yeah, I was wanting to do that, but I ran into some stuff with Winston, and just it didn't, I'm not in the place to do that now. But I still have to take my vacation. So, I'm actually going to tie in what I plan on doing on my vacation in with what I recommend
okay.
for people. And I am going to rec, and you don't have to be on vacation to do this. I'm going to rec that whatever city you live in, try and treat it like a tourist and go check out some. It doesn't have to be food. Mine's going to be very food centered, obviously, but just like try a place you haven't been before. You know, I know people live in smaller towns and that may not be an option, but like if you happen to live in a town that maybe, or a city that's a little bit bigger, and we become blind to where we live, right? We just kind of, everyone gets into habits, and that's not a bad thing. It's fine. But actually stopping and being like, like I haven't just like kind of like scoped out what is maybe new, or maybe some local favorites I haven't checked out before, things like that. So I'm going to recommend that. I recommend trying to, try a different place that maybe has kind of been on your radar in the city you live, but you just haven't gone by. So that's my rec.
That's a great one.
To treat your hometown like a tourist and see how it goes for you. I'm super excited to do that for I'm actually doing it for 2 cities technically, Murfreesboro and Nashville, but it's fine. It's fine. And I literally cannot express enough how excited I am for that. Truly.
I'm pumped. Yeah, no,
truly.
I'm
gonna eat so much good food and spend way too much money on all of it, but
worth it.
I'm seriously so pumped. There's so many places in Murfreesboro I haven't gone. I've been working here for 3 years, and I've lived here for like 7 months now, and my brain is like overloaded when I think about the amount of like breakfast spots and like restaurants I haven't gone to, even on the fucking square. I'm telling you,
I know. I want to.
I really have not gone to a lot of places. I'm so excited. So that's my rec. And that's the end of the podcast. If you heard music kick in, that music, while this season it was made by me, our previous seasons have been made by Austin Martin. Pretty much season 3 and 4, because 1 and 2 I was using the same intro, but for 3 and 4, he made some music for us, and I collaborate with him all the time. You can find him, Meridian Sky, on Spotify and on Apple Music, and I have some awesome news for you.
Yeah.
Bro's dropping an album.
Yeah.
Bro's got his collection of songs. He's ready to go with it. Super cool. So go over there and give him a listen. It's fucking sick. Super pumped for him. Yeah, he's cranking out music, and I always will recommend and give him that shout out.
For sure.
Guys, you can check us out on the interwebs. We do have a website. What? It's shows.acast.com/where-does-food. That link will be in the description of the episode. You can also, ways to support us on that website, we do have a button for our Acast Plus, which is plus.acast.com/s/where-does-food. Again, that link is also, not only is it in this episode description, it's straight up just in the show description. So for those 2 links, you can check this out. But you can find me personally over on Instagram, and I'm also on Threads. So it's the same handle. It's at Tim_and_Winston. I don't know if the podcast is going to move over to Threads, but there is a good chance that this will potentially be the last time I shout out that you can follow us on Twitter at where-does-food. We might very well end up being an Instagram and a Threads page. I've actually kind of wanted to do an Instagram page for a while for the podcast. So,
I think that would be the move.
But for right now, check us out on Twitter at where-does-food, and you can check Elle out at...
I'm still on the Titanic. That is Twitter. I'm the orchestra, so we'll be going down. I'm on Twitter still at El Chapo with 3 underscores in between L and Chapo. For how long? I don't know. I've said that now for months.
Do you have an Instagram?
I have an Instagram.
You should set up a Threads account, buddy. You gotta follow.
I know. I've had a few people.
You don't have to get rid of your Twitter.
I know.
You don't have to get rid of your Twitter. But just set it up, try it out, see how it feels,
and then I can deactivate.
It's
if
nice.
I want. What the world
it's
used
been
to be
nice
like.
It's been nice over on Threads. You should actually do it early before it turns into a shit show. But right now, it's very wholesome and fun. That's good. You can support us by leaving a review. You can also hit us up, things like that, if you want us to do certain episode topics. we're always interested in doing some stuff. I think for the most part, we haven't done a food that we haven't had, but we actually have one coming up this season that I know. I'm pretty positive that neither of us have had. But that episode is actually a suggestion from a bud of mine. He wanted us to research it, so we're going to do that. So, yeah, hit us up. Give us some food stuff. And like I said, you can support us on Acast Plus and leaving reviews. And also just word of mouth, telling your friends about it, putting it on in the car while you lock them in there, child safety locks, and you tie them down to the back seat. And then go on a cross-country road trip and make sure you set up a little hamster water thing and feed them.
That's really all they need.
Or something. That way they stay alive, so they can actually enjoy the podcast. All right, everyone have a good time and go munch on some tofu.
Ah.